Africa and beyond. You're welcome to Idea Morning Digest, your trusted space for information conversations that shape the world. On this program, we go beyond the headlines to unpack issues around policy, governance, science, technology, health, business, entrepreneurship, and innovation as a driver for development. At Idea Television, we believe that informed citizens build stronger societies and that meaningful conversation are the first step towards sustainable change. Today is not an exception. We have an outline of activities for us to follow up. We'll be discussing with our senior analyst in the discussion segment. We'll be bringing you what's trending, and later on at the end of the program you'll be getting a weather update. But I'm not alone. My name is Adewale Alashopo. Welcome to the program.
Oh, Adewale, good morning.
Good morning. and I actually see that this is the first time we're seeing Mary in a long time. How was your break?
It was fine. Good morning. My name is Mary Ojumajo, and I'm excited to be with you this morning on Idea Morning Digest. Good morning.
Idea Morning Digest. And I say that your holiday was fine because you're looking very different. You're looking taken care of.
Okay. We thank God.
Now we move on to the headlines this morning. Nigeria food inflation hits 14-year low. CPPE warns falling food prices could hurt Nigerian farmers. Obi criticizes presidential villa solar switch amid power crisis. Lastly, Nigeria faces short-term power dip as gas maintenance cuts supply. But first, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll go to the news in detail. Stay with us.
Enhancing cybersecurity. As cyber attacks grow more sophisticated, cybersecurity technologies are evolving to defend against them. AI-driven threat detection systems, zero-trust architectures, and advanced encryption methods are becoming the new norm. However, keeping up with rapidly evolving threats is a challenge, especially for industries that handle sensitive data like finance and healthcare. The cybersecurity market is expected to reach $248.26 billion by 2024. But the constant need for innovation and adaptation means businesses need to stay vigilant.
Welcome back. You're still on Idea Morning Digest on Idea Television. We'll start with the first story this morning. Nigeria's food inflation has dropped to its lowest level in more than 14 years. Data released by the National Bureau of Statistics shows food inflation fell sharply to 8.89% in January 2026, while headline inflation eased slightly to 15.10%. The Statistics Office says the slowdown was driven by lower prices of key food items including grains, beans, eggs, oil, and tubers, alongside improved food production and a more stable exchange rate. On a month-to-month basis, food prices fell significantly, marking the first single-digit food inflation reading since 2011. However, members of the organized private sector have urged caution, warning that living costs remain high for most Nigerians. They say the slower pace of food does not yet mean cheaper goods in the market, and advise the government not to celebrate too early, despite the easing pressure on prices. Well, this is a welcome development when it comes to affordability of food supplies, especially for ordinary citizens, common citizens whose lives are being determined by the daily prices of commodities, especially food and other essential products that ordinary Nigerians have to use every single day. And having to earn as you work and pay and be able to afford to buy those things on a daily basis is actually very paramount issues for most Nigerians. Well, the National Bureau of Statistics have mentioned in this statement or in this report that this is the first time it's fallen to a single digit in a very, very long time, since 2011, if I got the report correctly.
Course, yes.
And this says a lot about the intervention that the government has been doing, we understand that there's a lot of policies that have been put in place, lots of loans that have been made available to small-scale and medium enterprises, especially for small-scale farmers as well. There is the Bank of Industry, there's agricultural loans that have been provided to them at really affordable interest rates. So that has also helped them. But when we look at the issue of food inflation in Nigeria, we understand that it's not only caused by the availability of resources for them, land allocation issues with farmers, either clashes as well. And we also have the issue with transportation, because when goods are being produced, they need to be transported to a particular place for reselling or distribution with the markets, at the market, or for other intermediaries when it comes to the wholesaler and the consumer at the end of the day. So all of these factors need to be put in place or addressed to ensure that food prices would drop drastically. But on the other hand, we're also looking at the issues of farmers who are complaining now that when food prices are dropping at a very high and unpredictable rate, it affects their own income as well. So while we're the problem for the government, or the government effort is being geared towards ensuring that the food prices for the common man is good, we also need to look at the adverse effects for the farmers, and that is where you need to look at interventions that are being put in place, or tax breaks, or access to resources, or cheap fertilizers, or what have you, that have been provided for farmers to ease the suffering, to ease this period for them. Because we cannot deny that for most Nigerians, what's most important is that food prices should go down.
Of
when
course,
food
yes.
prices go down, other things, there's a saying in my language, they say, Oroko iwo no ki, when you are hungry, you don't listen to anything
Exactly,
else. There's nothing anybody
exactly.
wants to tell you. You need to get yourself food first before you can discuss anything. So for Nigerians to be able to think about other things, they need to be fed. And I think this is a welcome development, that we need it to go down, even as we're talking about other issues surrounding it.
You know, I'm really happy when I read the news this morning, because, of course, like you said, it's someone that has eaten well that would have the strength to
Imagine
walk.
you haven't eaten.
Imagine I haven't eaten this morning. It's someone that has eaten well that will have the strength to walk, actually. And for so long, Nigerians have been battling between balancing food price. You can see that the food price, sometimes it comes high, sometimes it goes low, and it's not balancing. It's not balancing. Like you said, that transportation is one of the key factors that they should look into, because if you have your available goods, of course you need to transport them, you need to sell them to make more money, to get more crops, to, you know, start other things to do. So when the transportation business, I think, should be looked into, because I feel transporting goods is one of the major crises, one of the major, we have other majors, but one of the major crises that should be looked into, so that while these foodstuffs are being transported, we can now say, okay, the easy transportation is now, you know, going for us. We cannot look at other factors. Like you said, farmers will always complain when the food is too low and is affecting them. Of course, there's price of fertilizer, there are price of other things they need to work with, the working tools and all that. So if the price goes that low, it's going to affect the producers, it's going to affect those, the farmers, because of course you don't expect me to suffer, to do other things to get this products, and at the end of the day I'm selling it for a cheaper rate. What will I gain at the end of the day?
At the end of
this
the day,
is what they are also looking about. It's not like they do not want the food price to come down low, but they want the situation whereby there is going to be a balancing, where everybody is going to be okay at the end of the day. So what is the government looking at? Like, how are they looking forward to making these things balance? First things first, I understand that in Nigeria here, we do not take agriculture very serious like it should be taken seriously. And I feel that these farmers should be called, and they should have a forum where they will have discussions, and they will be able to present what they need and how they want things to be, and how the government can come in and assist them at the end of the day, so that everything would balance, so that we ourselves will be happy to go to the market and buy bag of rice for less amount at the end of the day. Because if you can afford bag of rice and other things, of course you're good to go. You'll not be talking about how to spend your salary at the end of the month anymore. You will now know that, okay, the food aspect is down for me. Now we're talking about other things. So I feel the government is actually doing well. They are trying and looking into all these things. Is actually I would say it's a good development and it's a good start.
It is indeed. And before we move on to the next story, I think other areas that we need to look at are the critical stakeholders in the industries. For instance. And also another point we need to touch about is the issue of losses that Nigerian farmers incur when it comes to the harvesting period.
Of course.
Because usually, perhaps, I don't know the statistics now, but majorly most of our perishable goods get disposed before goes bad before they get it to the market or even get to people's homes.
Of course.
So things like tomatoes, things like corn, or things like frozen foods, fish. Those are things that needs to be kept in cold storages. So we need to look at shelf life, and as well as much as we're thinking about other things such as transportation, talking about easy access to tools and all of that. So we need to look at how we ensure that the majority of what we're harvesting is not going into losses, because there was there's this news reports that we made here about a farmer in Kaduna whose cassava, most percentage of his harvesting goes to waste.
You can imagine how the person will be
feeling at the end of this. So when you waste, when that has gone to waste, you've processed it and you've taken the percentage to the market, and the prices falls down drastically. At the end of the day, you're not making anything.
Of course, you feel sad, and you would need to sell at the end of the day.
The open grazing is affecting you as well, and then the things you're buying in terms of fertilizer, water access is not there for you. So at the end of the day, farmers are not okay. And this is the area where I begin to say that we don't only need to look at the small-scale farmers alone. Let's begin to look at industrial investment into the farming sector in the country. Because when we look at advanced countries that have done so well for themselves, like the United States, the United States is one of the United States, Russia, Switzerland, those are countries that have invested heavily in research, in education, to ensure that they are producing, they have the seedlings with the highest yields for farmers. So those are areas we need to partner with research institutions in Nigeria. Schools of agriculture should be able to come up with ideas, with innovation, to make sure that farmers are getting the needed right yield when they plant, or our climate as well should also be put into consideration, because when research has been done in advanced countries like the US, Russia, the European Union, they're taking their own climatic condition into perspective. But when we look at Africa, especially the sub-Saharan African countries, this is a very hot environment, and we need to look at our own crops, our grains, and other things that are very particular, that are staple here in this part of the world. So how can we put more money into the research and development so that we can get best out of it at the end of the day? But we'll move on to the next story. The Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise is urging the federal government of Nigeria to take urgent steps to protect farmers as inflation eased 15.10% in January. The group says cheaper food is helping households but could damage rural incomes. In a policy brief released today, the CPPE warned that sustained low farm gate prices may discourage production and threaten future food supply. It is calling for targeted support, including guaranteed minimum prices for key crops, expanded agro-processing, stronger strategic reserves, and productivity support for farmers. Official data from the National Bureau of Statistics show food inflation fell to 8.89% year-on-year in January, with prices dropping month on month. The CPPE says policy must now balance affordability for consumers with sustainability for production to secure long-term food security. I think we've mentioned this earlier as well.
Exactly. We're still talking about the food,
and I'm glad that this agency has also brought that up, talking about the intervention that needs to be done when it comes to the research as well, when it comes to the intervention in terms of tools and machineries that needs to be invested in this sector, and looking at the advanced ways of farming nowadays. We have vertical farmings that are not, you don't need to have an expand of land or even arable lands. We look at countries that don't have access to the land resources that we do. Lots of countries like in the Middle East, like Saudi Arabia, they're growing, the UAE, Israel. Those are countries that are looking at advanced ways of planting to ensure that the shortfall that they have they are able to look at alternatives to bring it up. But let's look at another story. Former presidential candidate Peter Obi has criticized plans to power the Aso Rock presidential villa with solar energy, saying it signals neglect for Nigeria's national electricity grid. He spoke today in a statement posted on social media. Obi questioned the move more than 2 years into President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, recalling campaign promises of stable electricity. He argued that disconnecting the seat of power undermines efforts to fix the grid while citizens face persistent outages. The criticism follows budget provision of about 10 billion for solar infrastructure at the villa. Nigeria's grid remains fragile with repeated collapses and low generation availability, according to the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, leaving homes and businesses reliant on generators. When this news
that's another one.
Interesting. Cynthia and I discussed this news when it broke a couple of days ago.
Okay.
When the State House, in a statement that was released, said that they were actually detaching themselves from the epileptic power supply that we get from the Nigeria's national grid that usually falls every market day
Every market
in this
day,
country.
actually, yeah.
And I think the criticism from Obi, who is in the opposition party and who is also vying for the presidency when coming
For 2027.
coming next presidential election in the country, is a welcome development, because we will need the opposition in Nigeria to speak truth to power. If a country like Nigeria cannot boast of adequate power supply, then the $1 trillion target that President Tinubu is focusing on when it comes to 2030 agenda will never be realized.
Of course.
Because the power, the power behind an industrial nation is the electricity generated by the country. That's the only thing that can power industries, that can power business. So when we have the federal government saying that detaching themselves from the power, from the electricity grid in the country, then that says a lot about their confidence in the power supply that they are able to bring about for most and ordinary Nigerians in the country. And it also says something about Nigerian presidency removing themselves from the issues that are facing Nigeria. When this presidency came in, he said subsidy is gone. They made a lot of pronouncements and they made a lot of policy that are very difficult for ordinary Nigerians. And we were told to adapt. We were told to persevere. We were told to give this administration time to work. We've given them time. We've persevered. We've endured the policies of this administration, but time and again we see them do things that are contrary to their own statements. You see them buy yachts for the presidential fleet. You see them go on trips around the world that are in tune to billions of naira every day. You see them buy private jets for themselves. You see them rob people's fleets. And you see them do a lot of things. And you see them power themselves with 10 billion naira. In the last budget, and in 2026 budget, an additional 7 billion naira is being added to complete and fast track and make sure that this is sustainable for them. So it begs believe that you're leaving Nigeria to their own fate and you're detaching yourself from the reality. And I mean, you just say something like the example I gave the last time, that when politicians win election in their own local environment, they go to Abuja and start living there, or go to one big estate and start living there. So you're removed entirely from the situation of your from your electorate, because those are the people that brought you into power. So when you're removed from it, when the Aso Rock is removed from the electric power supply in Nigeria, whether or not we don't have light for 2 years, nobody will know, because they're well taken care of. So Nigerians need to be well taken care of as well. So the criticism from Peter Obi at the end of the day is valid, and we need more from the opposition party to put these people on their toes and do what's needful for Nigerians.
Exactly. It's not like I am saying I do not 100%. The thing is, I do not 100% support Peter Obi, because I see all these things as manifesto that do not come into manifestation in real life. Because all these things can be said.
But that was the same for Peter Obi. But I am more concerned about what the opposition has to do. The opposition has to talk. Exactly. When they were in the opposition, oh my goodness, Nigeria did not hear you. We saw corpses being carried around. In terms of President Jonathan Natasha, so a lot of things been happening.
Of course, I would still see a lot.
And President Tinubu also mentioned that if I do not provide electricity, don't elect me again. So Nigerians have something to hold on to.
Exactly. We'll still see a lot. Like I said, that these are manifestos. I believe that any presidential candidate that comes forward now would definitely have one thing to criticize about the present government or the past government. These are things that I feel they want to use and maybe buy more time, or maybe they want to use it like, okay, I'm bringing a better plan. But my point here is that whatever the government is doing, they should know that they are already working on horses while we are working on foot. And it's not easy for us as Nigerians working on foot. That is actually an adage. They are working on horses. Like you said, they are being comfortable wherever they are, in their houses, in their offices, making statements, passing out this and passing out that. What about the common Nigerians? What are you talking about? How do you put all these things to place that to come to play that will benefit us? That's what we're looking. Now, talking about the electricity, how can you tell me that the presidential villa is powered with solar, and you want us Nigerians to have hope on the electricity supply? How is that even possible?
Are you on band A or band B?
How is that even possible?
Between the band A and band B, nobody's getting.
How is that even possible? Like, it's like, I don't know. The thing is, you as a president, you are using solar, and then you are busy telling us that you think the government is working on the electricity supply. We as Nigerians were suffering greatly, and someone said last time that Nigerians know how to adapt to situations. They know how to endure. They know how to embrace situations, especially when it comes. They just feel, okay, it has happened. Just move forward, no matter what it is. That's why when they pass out even the bill, you see Nigerians, they will complain for just a short period of time. And at some point, they will just adapt. They will say, okay, let's just move on. I think this is a problem why the leaders keep doing what they are doing. It's time for us to stand up for ourselves. It's time for us to speak out. It's time for every youth to know that this is not sitting well with us. We cannot be crying and pretending to be comfortable at the same time. We need to speak out. We need to say something so that they would know that this is actually democracy. This is not this is democracy. And democracy, you need to involve the people. The people's decision and opinion counts. So I feel at this point it's time for us to speak up, because keeping silent and watching all these things and feeling, oh, okay, it will come and it will go. It will actually affect us greatly at the end of the day. So I feel the government should do more, because this is not sounding well, it's not looking good at all. We are being washed over. As in, people are watching Nigerians, people are saying the news all over, and you're saying a country like Nigeria is having problem with electricity supply. How do you want the people to cope? Talking about the market, talking about people that sell goods and service, how do you want them to cope? People work online 24/7. How do you want the hospitals? How do you want them to cope? Pharmacies, where you see patients, you have things to do, you have operations to carry out, and you do not have a steady power supply at the end of the day. How do you want them to cope? Just like the incident that happened about the girl that was killed by a snake, because they are saying that you need 24 hours light to preserve the venom, and they do not have 24 hours light because they are putting their hopes on generators and other things. So how do you want them to cope in a country where you people as a leader do not have belief in your own country? You come out to make odd statements. You come out to make statements that are touching. We are the leaders. Okay, we have the leaders of tomorrow. I'm included. We are the leaders of tomorrow. So from today, exactly. So watching at all these things come to play is not giving a having Nigerian the hope that this country is getting anywhere anytime soon. It's not about coming out to vote. It's not about praying for the best leader to come and sit. It's about getting somebody that would start the work. We all have been saying these things. People, they come out to make all this manifesto. Who exactly is putting in the work? Let the work speak for you at the end of the day. I feel when it comes to election that most times let the work speak more than your voice. Because if you're putting in effort in the work, if you're bringing all these things into practice, you don't need too much effort for us to want to revote you. We want to see the workings. We are not seeing the workings, and there are many people, many governors, many people in the office right now, but we're not seeing the working as it should be. Don't touch a particular topic and don't finish it. At the end of the day, you just touch and drop. That is what we are experiencing now in the country. You see news that are making headlines. They just touch and drop it. Touch and drop it. Once it's just bringing a hit, they just touch it and drop it, and that is it. That is not what we need right now. We need permanent solution. If we can get when it comes to electricity, very, very important, because this will affect food. This will affect transportation, I won't even lie. This will affect health. Health, very important, because you see many people in the hospital right now. A lot of cases. I've been in the hospital. Like, I'm just coming from the hospital, so I know what I'm saying. They will tell you there is no network.
There's no network.
Before you know, they'll tell you there is no light. You'll be in the hospital and you'll be battling with light. No light to do anything. Imagine you having an emergency case and they're telling you there's no light, you should wait for them to get diesel. You should wait for them to get for their generator. And maybe the generator fails at the end of the day. That is why you see all these cases, people losing their life, because it's not like it cannot be prevented. But the actual thing to prevent it is not made available. What do you want the doctors to do at the end of the day? This is affecting us greatly. It's really affecting us greatly.
Indeed, it's affecting us greatly, and the government have a responsibility towards their citizens,
of course,
to ensure that the reality that they are experiencing in the villa should also be a reflection of what most Nigerians are going through. Moving on to the next story, Nigeria's electricity output is expected to fall temporarily after scheduled maintenance reduced gas supply to power stations. Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation Limited says routine work by Seplat Energy PLC affected gas flows between Thursday and Sunday. The maintenance carried out from February 12 to February 15 curtailed supply into the national gas pipeline, heating gas-fired plants including EGMI, Azura, Sapele and Transcorp. The Nigeria's independent system operator warned of reduced terminal generation and possible limited load shedding to protect grid stability. NNPC say alternative gas supplies were activated to cushion the impact, with system monitoring stepped up. Full gas supply was restored yesterday, Monday, February 16, with operators assuring customers that disruptions were managed and kept to a minimum. The news was shared a couple of days ago that the routine maintenance would affect the gas supply for most Nigerians.
Okay.
The agencies listed there, but now we're happy that it's been restored and get back on track. But another part of this that I want to touch about is that issues like this would always arise. Issues about maintenance, issues about sometimes sabotage, sometimes issues about unforeseen circumstances that we see many of that in this country.
Yeah.
But when we look at that, the areas where I think the federal government can come in is about strategic reserve. What does our strategic reserves for gas look like? What does our strategic reserves for food look like? What of our strategic reserves for every other commodities in the country, or things that are necessary to sustain life or to sustain the smooth running of a country? What does it look like? So when we have shortfalls like this that are affecting different businesses, that affects their own output and economic performance in the country, what are the government's interventions? You can't just think you're going to cut off supply for a number of days without giving alternatives, although they mentioned that alternatives were given out. But these are areas where the government needs to invest heavily inside, and also for state governments as well. I think these are areas that they need to also begin to look into without relying so heavily on the national government or the national body. When different states have their own reserve that they can actually put out to ensure that there's an adequate supply, when those those scheduled maintenance affects productivity, at the end of the day, they are able to cushion the effect that is being meted on the effectiveness or the viability of their own state economic activities.
I would say you said it all. The government should do the needful, because we will start talking about it now. I will start being a little bit sentimental, and I don't want that. So the government should do the needful. They should invest where they need to invest. They should really target where it needs to be more invested in and do the needful, so that we would stop having this back and forth when it comes to supplies, especially when it comes to gas, because it's very important. There is no news here that we've read that is not actually important. If you touch here is important and you want to elaborate on it and you want to stretch the talk, so at this point, I think the government should please do the needful.
Well, that's a charge to the federal government of Nigeria. From Mary. the government.
Okay. Should do the needful.
Madam Mary has told the government to do the needful, but that's all for the headlines this morning. I don't know why I'm laughing so much, but you made me laugh this morning.
It's a happy day.
It's a happy day indeed. That's that for the headline segment. We'll go on a quick break. When we return, we're going to into the discussion in full.
Human augmentation. Human augmentation is enhancing human abilities through exoskeletons, wearable technology, and brain-computer interfaces. For instance, exoskeletons are helping individuals with mobility challenges walk again, while brain-computer interfaces allow users to control devices with their thoughts. However, concerns around accessibility and privacy remain. The market for human augmentation is expected to grow to $298.5 billion by 2027, driven by demand in healthcare, defense, and personal productivity tools.
Welcome back. You're still watching Idea Morning Digest on Idea Television. I'm Adewale Alashipo. Now we move to the discussion segment. Africa's education priority gap, high public demand and low public funding. Across Africa, education is no longer just a social issue. It is now a top public demand. A recent Pan-African survey by Afrobarometer shows that Africans rank education among their three most urgent priorities alongside jobs and health. But here is the contradiction. While citizens are demanding more investment in education, government funding continues to fall short of both global and African commitment. Despite repeated promises, most countries are still not spending what they agreed was necessary to secure the future of the continent's children. This morning, we take a closer look at why this gap persists, what it matters for Africa's development, and whether current education financing models are fit for purpose in a continent with the world's fastest growing youth population. A new Afrobarometer survey released on January 22nd shows education has risen to one of Africa's top priorities. Yet, data from UNICEF and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development indicates that fewer than 20% of African countries meet agreed education funding targets. According to UNESCO, more than 100 million children across the continent are still out of school, while overcrowded classrooms and teacher shortages continue to weaken learning outcomes. Analysts warn that without urgent reforms in the education, financing, and spending efficiency, Africa risks undermining its long-term growth and social stability. Key points include why the funding gap persists, why are African governments unable or unwilling to meet education funding benchmark despite strong public demand. So the recent data has shown that a lot of Nigerians and Africans in general are experiencing a very turbulent weather when it comes to the education sector in the country.
Turbulent weather.
The turbulent weather, it's a pandemic when it comes to funding and the projected targets for African countries. Here is the conundrum that we're facing in Africa. We are talking about development. We are focused on artificial intelligence. We are focused on reboosting our economic viability on the continent. We're talking about meeting global demands when it comes to our own output. We are talking about increasing our own share quota in the value chain of production of goods and services around the world. But all of this is still heavily reliant on a good education system, because when you don't have the right education system, you're not producing good graduates, or you're not producing the workforce that will have the right education or will be better positioned to bring about all of this development that Africa needs. So when education is being neglected, when it becomes, and as we've seen from that data, health and education comes as one of the top three of the priority for most Africans. Millions and millions of Africans are out of school. when it comes to education sector in this continent. And we've seen areas that intervention have been made for both within the African continent and for also donors and sponsors or international agencies like UNESCO, or even international donors from countries like USAID and China Aid and European Union intervention in Africa. A lot of things have been done to ensure that the education system in Nigeria or in African countries are improved. But let's even come down to Nigeria. Millions, hundreds of millions of Nigerians, or tens of millions of Nigerians, hundreds of millions, I should say, are not getting the right education system. Why tens of millions of Nigerians still out of school? We talk about the IDP camps. Most of the children there are not receiving the quality education that they should get, not even in the right environment to be receiving that. But those that are even in school, we've seen dilapidated infrastructure when it comes to the facility that have been provided for school of learning in the country. When we talk about the research that are being carried out, adequate funding are not being provided. When we talk about staff welfareism as well, teachers and lecturers are not being paid enough to be able to sustain a living. And when you're not being paid enough, you want to dabble into other responsibilities. So that is where you find teachers in schools that are selling food crops. They're telling their children, especially public schools in Nigeria, they're telling them, "Oh, go and sell this for me, or go and give it to another teacher in another room, in another classroom." When teachers are not able to afford a decent living, they will have to engage themselves in things that are able to sustain their economic activity or their economic projection for themselves, because everybody has a responsibility for themselves and their family. So when you look at all of these different aspects, especially for Nigeria, you look at the issue of insecurities as well. When schools are being built today, insurgency happens tomorrow, kidnapping happens, Boko Haram or different ISWAP or terrorist groups in Nigeria go into different communities, kidnap children. Those are part of the things that are affecting. At the end of the day, some parents have said, it's better for my child to be alive than for them to be dead while they are in school. If the government cannot assure their protection, or they're going into an education system that does not prioritize the quality of education that they are getting. We have curriculums that have been developed since the 1990s. I'm not saying that history is not important, but we're looking at the future. We're looking at artificial intelligence. We're looking at robotics. We're looking at the new ways of finding solutions to our problem. An education system in Africa and Nigeria should also look at the critical issues that are facing this continent, or critical issue that is very pertinent to different African countries. When you look at Nigeria, there are different issues that we're facing. The education system should be geared towards providing solution to that problem. We're not only looking to graduate students who are just able to speak English or able to write letters for you. We want students who are critical thinkers, who can solve problems. That is not to say that everybody will go into the business sector, everybody would be innovators or creators. But when you are in a position of power, in a position of authority, whether you're a secretary or you're a front desk officer or you're the manager, you bring value to the company. The company can rest assured to say that we've employed somebody that can be creative enough to bring solution to the problem that we're trying to solve as a company, or the solution that we're trying to provide. But when you do not have that quality of staff, because of the quality of education that they've received, it affects productivity in the workspace. It affects the economic viability. Any workspace that don't have experienced staff, any workplace that do not have staff that are well paid, any workplace that do not have staff that are enjoying the dividend of a system that is prioritizing their own needs, because of the quality of education that they've gotten, will affect the productivity of that company, will affect the productivity of that industry, will affect the productivity of that state, and will affect the productivity of the nation as a whole at the end of the day, because this trickle down to the grassroots when it comes to funding, when it comes to projection, when it comes to research and development. So all of these are critical areas that needs to be addressed. And also the issue of last week we had British schools comes into Nigeria, and then they said they want to look at how to get Nigerians and entice well-to-do Nigeria, because I said it, because not all Nigerians can be able to afford those A-list schools in the UK. Even if it is government school, they cannot be able to afford that. So if you're picking the best of our own brains out of this country, you're taking them into first world, as you call them, developed countries, at the end of the day they want to stay there. They want to look at opportunities that are available for them to continue to sustain a living there. So you're taking the brain away from the country, and you're not returning it, or you're not filling the void with something that is really important. So I think those are critical areas that the government needs to look into.
When it comes to education sector, there are a lot of things to be said about it. Just like you've mentioned everything. You've mentioned everything. The thing is, the education system of Nigeria has been leaking right from day one. We've not seen a strong hold to really hold it when it comes to education. And they are forgetting that having a better country, education contributes a lot, 80% of that.
America is what it is today because of the education system.
Exactly.
China is what it is today
because of the education system. So when the education foundation is not suddenly built, it's not strong, you see the citizens shaking, because you need to produce good graduates at the end of the day so that you can actually get from them what they've gotten from school. You cannot say you're investing in a child that comes out at the end of the day and do not know what he or she is doing. The educational system is shaking because a lot of things need to be put to place which is not being looked into despite public demand from the government. Now I want to ask, my question is, what is the government actually investing in? If education and health sector is not one of the most important they should invest in, so what are they investing in? Because I feel education is one key thing that they should look into. Of course, paying of teachers. If I'm a teacher, for instance, okay, before I get there, while in school, when I will be asked, what do you want to become in the future? You see, you hardly see a child say she wants to or he wants to become a teacher because they feel teacher live poorly. They feel teaching do not benefit. And they are in school to be taught. These mentalities are the mentality we grew up with. You see us calling other professions like I want to become a doctor, I want to become a psychologist, I want to become this and that, but we don't mention I want to become a farmer, I want to become a teacher, because the government have not really paid attention to these professions. So if you're not paying teachers what you're supposed to pay them and pay them well, how do you expect them to have the excitement to want to deliver? Just like I have knowledge of things I want to deliver to the young ones, and these are services I will render and get paid at the end of the day, and I'm not being paid well. And my salary is being held for a month, for 2 months, 3 months, and you think I would not look for other means to survive. They would give those children poor education. Their attention, 100%, will not be put in there, because their attention will be divided to other means of them having money, which you just mentioned, them bringing on other things to maybe come to school to sell things, or better still, they have other means of getting money because their focus is they want to get money to survive. They need to survive. So this aspect needs to be, teachers' salary needs to be looked into too. You want the best for your children. You need to, if you're taking them to, you think they are taken to the best schools, ask around what's happening there. Are those people being paid very well? Because sometimes aggression can be transferred unprovoked. You see a teacher that has not received salary that is angry, but she or he needs to come to work, and the people will come, and then the person is making unnecessary noise or saying so. They will just transfer the aggression. And then it affects the child psychologically. Somehow the child will not be comfortable. Now let's leave that aspect and talk about the aspect of making the environment comfortable for children, making it comfortable for students. Especially when you go to government schools these days, you keep on seeing an uncomfortable environment. The seats are not properly placed, the boards are not properly placed, many things there, they do not have water, their toilets are not clean, nothing is being kept properly, and you want children to come there to learn. How? And they keep complaining to the government, okay, look into public schools, let's leave private schools now, look into public schools, the one we call government schools.
Because that's where the majority of Nigerians can afford.
Exactly, that is where they can afford. At least look into these schools. Send supervisors. I keep hearing supervisors do come check. And if you check the environment that supervisors do come and check. I'm wondering, what are they checking? What did they see? Did they see anything? These things need to be critically looked into. When a child have a comfortable environment for learning, there's lab, there's water, there's electricity, the road is good, the board is, everything is fine, working well. The child will be mentally balanced to want to learn. And when teachers are being paid, they will put more effort. Because there's no how we pay you well and you will not put effort in what you're doing. You will put effort to want to impress me. And you putting effort to want to impress me, you're giving those children an opportunity to live a better future tomorrow. You see most graduates coming out, coming out of school today, and they cannot even defend their certificate. You tell me you study this, and I tell you present yourself, present what you study, and you cannot even do that. And you say you're a graduate. That is because they ended up buying their way through school. They just wanted to answer the name graduate, and that was it. And these are the things that the government of Nigeria is encouraging. This is bribery and corruption. If you don't want to learn, you pay. Are you being serious right now? They are not putting much effort. So that's why most people that do have the money, you see they're sending their children abroad because they feel they can get better education there. Why not your country? Why are you running away from your country? Let's come back and build. Let's come back and invest. You can't run away from home. Home remains home.
Home remains home indeed. Another aspect that I want us to look at is the policy choices and the political will. Because when we talk about other areas of governance that have been prioritized, we see that when it comes to providing solar for the State House, that is prioritized and they're going to release money from it.
Okay.
From the reports that we made a few days ago about the amount that has been released from the 2025 and 2026, even 2026 budgets for the Ministry of Health, just a couple of millions were released out of the billions that were projected or that was budgeted, beg your pardon, for the ministry.
Okay.
So there is no willpower from the government to do this. The priority is not on education. And that is where
you can say that again.
That is where it has to be.
Yeah.
The priority is not on education.
And it has to be there.
It has to be, because this is a bedrock for innovation.
Of course.
It's the bedrock for creativity.
Of course.
It's the bedrock for every civilization that we've been able to achieve today. The gadgets that are being used in those sophisticated houses that we talk about, the gadget, all the instruments, the means with which they communicate, the vehicles that they drive, it comes from somebody's creativity.
Of course.
And it comes from somebody innovating that. And the person couldn't have innovated that or couldn't have improved on that
if they do not have better education,
do not have the better
background.
education system or background. So that is when we're talking about the willpower and commitment to. And even in Nigeria, because we attended a meeting, I've forgotten the agency here in Abuja, where we look at the anniversary that they talked about different patents that have been generated even from Nigerian universities. Okay. So oftentimes we talk about, Nigerian universities, research institutions are not generating any patent, we're not seeing anything with it. But actually we realize that there are a number of patents that has been developed, but where is the funding coming from? Where are the investments coming from? None. When it comes from the government or when it comes for private investors, we're not seeing that. At the end of the day, most of the investment that we're seeing in the country are only in fintech or in the financial sector. Because that is where the immediate money is.
I'm sorry to cut you short. We Nigerians were very talented. When I say talented, we are very, very talented. And you see, most of these people come out with their creativities, things that they've created. And at the end of the day, government are not even supportive. What do you want that individual to do? Of course, the person will look for other means. I believe they should support creativity. When you see these people coming with creative mindset, you support them, you build, invest in them.
And invest in. I want to say, for instance, the Ministry of Science and Technology and Investment and Innovation, or whatever the long name they have. I want to see every single year. These are the patents that has been developed by Nigerian research institutions or Nigerian students or Nigerians also. So this is what the government is putting into it. Different ministries are doing their own. We can't take that away from it. And even different agencies are putting money, but I want to say from the national level, this is what the state is investing in. We see that companies abroad, they're investing in their own research and patents, and they're developing it into a successful, thriving business.
Yes.
So if we have somebody that has developed an app in Nigeria for social media, how about the government invest in it? How about the government become one of the stakeholders for that company to ensure that it actually become widely acceptable or used by the government? We talked about critical technology when it comes to even election, the beavers. Who are those technology partners?
We're still battling with that now.
Here in Nigeria, technological innovation that can actually solve our problem, but are they willing to invest in it? That is the question I want us to take up, even when we have a senior analyst to join us in the conversation this morning. But we'll go on a quick break now. When we come back, we'll be joined by Chris Ejiofor, Idea Television senior analyst. We're going to be looking at the critical aspect of the education system and the reforms that needs to be taken to meet the quota for both African countries and the world projection. Idea Morning Digest. Keep watching.
blockchain technology. Blockchain is most commonly associated with cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, but its potential goes far beyond that. Blockchain offers a decentralized, secure, and transparent way to record transactions, which is being applied in industries like finance, supply chain management, and healthcare. For instance, blockchain can verify the origin of products and supply chains or ensure the integrity of medical records. But blockchain still faces hurdles. Its energy consumption and scalability are major issues. By 2025, the blockchain market is expected to grow to $39.7 billion, but widespread adoption will depend on overcoming these challenges. Smart apps. Smart apps leverage AI and machine learning to provide personalized user experiences and automate tasks. These apps are being used across sectors like finance, healthcare, and retail to improve customer engagement and operational efficiency. For example, smart investment apps offer tailored financial advice, while healthcare apps assist in diagnostics. However, data privacy remains a concern as these apps collect sensitive user information. The market for smart apps is projected to grow to $62.4 billion by 2025. Augmented reality, AR, and virtual reality, VR. AR and VR are transforming the way we experience the world, offering immersive digital environments in everything from gaming to training simulations. AR overlays digital elements onto the real world, think Pokemon Go, while VR immerses users in a completely virtual space. Industries like real estate and education are adopting these technologies for virtual tours and interactive learning, but the cost of high-end equipment remains a barrier. Despite that, the AR/VR market is projected to reach $209.2 billion by 2025, driven by advancements in hardware and 5G networks. Augmented reality, AR, and virtual reality, VR. AR and VR are transforming the way we experience the world, offering immersive digital environments in everything from gaming to training simulations. AR overlays digital elements onto the real world, think Pokemon Go, while VR immerses users in a completely virtual space. Industries like real estate and education are adopting